Hey, good afternoon, everybody. How are you? This is Freddie Ewan, two-time GM of the Year, 2022 Pantheon Cup winner, 2023 regular season champion, and 2024 Pantheon Cup runner-up. It's a big day today. We have the Tpffkal awards, and we have the commissioner in the house, Mr. Rich Michelli. How are you, Rich?
Good day, Freddie. Thanks for having me for this year-end award ceremony. This is fantastic. I see you've dolled yourself up in your best tuxedo outfit.
Well, I was just telling you this off the air. This is January football. You get crazy when the playoffs are here, and your football team, you haven't been used to that. So this year's it's a little bit different though. I think the last time you guys were in the playoffs, you lost to Tampa Bay when they had Brady. And I think Washington played them. Who was the quarterback? I forget who the quarterback was, but Washington actually played them better than anyone else did in the playoffs.
Was that Heineke? Might have been
Heineke, yeah, Heineke.
Yeah, good stuff. We have a little bit of a history with Tampa Bay in the playoffs, but I think it'll either be close. The Commanders have certainly a good chance of it, and Tampa is injured compared to when they were the first go around that we played them this year.
So if you were gonna bet your life on it, who's gonna play each other in the Super Bowl and who's gonna win?
Uh, Detroit and let's say Kansas City.
Yeah.
And I'd
And
go for Detroit. I think Detroit is the best team this year.
it's like I don't want to see Kansas City and I think a lot of people are like that. They just don't want to see Kansas City again.
I'm fine with it. If they're that good, that's fine. I didn't have a problem with the New England Patriots winning all those and getting to all those finals. I thought, it was actually good for people to root against them. It was fun.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I just watched that whole dynasty thing on Apple TV, which is really good. And just it just goes all with, Hernandez is in there, the early years when they benched Bledsoe, all the way up to all the cheating scandals, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, that was a nice time to be a Patriots fan. It was a nice time to be
Yeah.
an Eagles fan too when we beat them. But
And championship game. Congrats to you to make the championship. That was an impressive season for you, Freddie.
thank you very much. All
And
right, so we're gonna start
congrats,
out with
Neil. Congrats, Neil, on your victory. Even though you didn't have the best team this year, I think I held that honor. But
I I have to say, he finished seventh place 3 consecutive years, and I'm sure he would trade, that's okay since he won it this year. You know what I
for
mean?
sure, for sure,
And pretty much went, first to, he pretty much had, one of the best seasons, finished first in the regular season, only 2
you
losses.
did.
And didn't really have that great of a team, I didn't think. Didn't really have one of those like
Hey, a friend of mine
stars.
said, "You are what your record says you are." So
Yeah,
he got it
exactly.
done. He got it done. And I'd like to see everybody win a championship before we get our first repeat champion. But that'll be
I
hard to
would.
do. But it shows the strength of the league.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's start out with we have some player awards to give out. And I'm just going to give it right up to you. Just start going through the player awards and the end of the year awards for the actual players. How about
So
we'll start
well,
out with the bust of the
the
year.
yeah, the bust of the year was the least controversial one, or at least had the most votes for him. The nominees: Travis Etienne, Tyreek Hill, Mahomes, C.J. Stroud, and CMC, who you voted for. I threw that in as a conditional choice. Not it, sometimes it's hard to consider an injury on bust of the year, but that was a unique situation, and I think uh, really putting a lot of fantasy owners in a hard spot to be injured in preseason and show that it was going to be a regular year for him. So many people used up a lot of resources to keep him or select him. So that was a valid choice, but the winner was Tyreek Hill. My Actually, I had 2 players on this list, Mahomes and Hill, and that seemed to be. He played the whole season. It was no injury concerns, and he just didn't. I think he ended up wide receiver 37, I think. But anyways, not good.
He was, the NFL puts out their top 100 every year, and he was voted as the top NFL player. CMC was, I just think the 49ers, front office screwed every fantasy football player who had him on that, pretty much thinking he was 100% healthy, and it turned out he wasn't healthy at all.
Yeah, I mean, they were certainly playing their games throughout that part of the season, and then even when he came back, he just was not the same player.
I think you can
That's
go
tough.
with I think you can go with a lot of these. Stroud was definitely not, Stroud was on the waiver wire at one point. Mahomes.
Yeah, but the resources weren't there. He was a cheap keeper in our league. Uh, it was a little bit less. Mahomes,
Yeah, yeah,
obviously, one of the highest paid keeper quarterbacks, and I mean, he had a good season. His team is in the number one seed, but
sure,
fantasy wise,
sure,
it
sure.
was
Fantasy wise,
disappointing.
he was, something else. It was a big wash from, 6, 7 years ago when he threw 50 touchdowns.
Now, the interesting Travis Etienne just became like irrelevant. Like it wasn't even thought of. Like
Well,
that was strange.
the Jacksonville Jaguars and you've spent time in Jacksonville too. It's that organization is that's kind of like my second home, Jacksonville area, and it's just a total. It's just I mean that organization is just a complete disaster, and it's always been a disaster.
Next is Rookie of the Year. It was kind of a two-horse race.
It was
Brock
a
Bowers.
great year for rookies.
It was a great year, fantasy and real NFL. Jaden Daniels and Brock Bowers came down, and it was Brock Bowers taking it with 5 votes. And BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr., got quite a few votes also.
You could go for almost all these guys depending on it. I'm trying to think.
You can make a case for
Neighbors was a fourth round. He was like a late third, early fourth round pick, and ended up doing way better than Harrison Jr. Bowers, same thing. He was like a middle of the pack tight end. He turned out to be the best. He was the best overall tight end.
Yeah.
Bucky came on, obviously. Daniels had a great year, and BT Jr. I don't think you can go wrong with any of those guys.
No.
This is a good one, and it seems like I failed to pick up any one of these guys. I think I might have had Ertz for a couple weeks, but waiver wire pickup.
Well, going back to rookie, both you and I voted for Brian Thomas Jr. It's just so, but to be the number one tight end, that was very deserving. Best waiver wire pickup. You could even added 2 or 3 more to the nomination list here, but the winner was Jerry Jeudy. Came on strong through the middle of the year. And you go back and look at the transaction. It's really interesting how many players were dropped and from the draft and then
Sure.
waiver wire pickup. So yeah,
That's the yeah, and that's kind of in the John Galt League. That was kind of my attitude, was like to not spend a whole lot of money in the draft and really kind of attack the waiver wire. And
yeah.
it worked a little bit. I think I had top 5 in points, and I ended up paying $200 and getting into the playoffs, while some guys paid. This one dude, I think, paid $1,400 and didn't get into the playoffs. So,
Yeah, that's
but
tough.
that's always there's gold on the waiver wire sometimes.
Yeah, usually there's a running back that comes in on off of injury on the waiver wire and just destroys the league that way. But this year there was not that. It was a little bit muddling. I voted for Sam Darnold because surprisingly he did really great.
Had a great year.
MVP of the fantasy football year went to Saquon Barkley. Took that, and all the other nominees got a few votes, so it was a little bit muddled after him. I think it was just a dominant year for Barkley.
It was and a couple people said this to me before the season starts, that he was going to have a phenomenal fantasy football year. It's funny because in one fantasy football league, I had Barkley, Henry, and Chase, and I think I went 13-1. But during the first week of the playoffs, they all had bad games, and I ended up losing the first week because
You
they
gotta
all
hate
had
that.
bad games.
You
But
gotta hate that.
Barkley, yeah, I mean, Barkley was, I think if you're drafting next year based on this year, I think, I think Chase probably goes first, Barkley probably goes second. And, Gibbs has to be up there third too, Lamar Jackson and Josh
Gibbs
Allen
has the Montgomery
quarterbacks, but
problem. Montgomery will
um,
be back healthy, so that's a tough one to take third, but we'll see when we get there. Go ahead with your awards. Most improved GM.
so So let's start with here's the biggest surprise of the year. There were five nominations. It was TDK, Jimmy not making the playoffs, James finishing in dead last, the Monkeys playoff run, the season of TOD, but the winner is the Red Sharks not making the playoffs was the biggest surprise this
All
year.
right. Well, that's a
Congratulations.
consolation prize. Wow, I'm so thankful for that.
Then we have what was the best non-cap trade of the year. Patrick was arguing with me because I put all my trades on here, but there were only like 4 trades pre-cap. TOD trading Corum for Irving, the Monkeys trading Mayfield for Godwin, but the winner was TOD trading Calvin Ridley for Terry McLaurin. I think I did that the second or third week. Traded the vendor. Ridley had a couple great games, and Scary McTerry did not. And you know, buy low, sell high, was able to get them, and Scary McTerry pretty much had a big part in propelling my season before I sold him off to Jonathan Champ.
Yeah, I didn't think he would have such a great season with the rookie quarterback, and it didn't, like you said, it didn't start out well. But boy, he set a franchise record for receiving touchdowns. Pretty impressive.
How many receiving touchdowns did he have?
I think it was 13. It's not like an extreme number, maybe 12, but the Commanders, Redskins have been more running back heavy touchdowns. Riggins had the record for the NFL record for many years. So.
And McLaurin, I'm trying to find out what he was overall.
Oh, he's right up there with the most touchdowns.
He was wide receiver number 5. Turned out to be wide receiver number 5. Which GM was the biggest disappointment? We had 3 nominees, Jimmy, James, and once again, congratulations. This was a tough year, Rich, finishing last year and coming back this year, but you also won GM. That was the biggest disappointment. So congratulations.
I accept the surprising award, but the worst GM, disappointing GM, I'm disappointed I received that one because I thought my season look was pretty good. But anyways, I'll take it. And what are you gonna do?
So the next award, which GM improved the most throughout the season? 3 nominees: Teji, Cousin Pat, and Jonathan Champion. And by 1 vote, Jonathan Champion wins the most improved GM of the year award. We tried to get Champ on. I'm going to get him on for a show later on, but I think Champ has been the laughing stock of this league almost for a long time. And I think, he was actually, the computer picked his team to come second and last. He spent a lot of money on Derrick Henry and Josh Allen. And, Henry was kind of like an iffy. But those guys worked out for him. They carried him all year long and, went out and won a playoff game. Bowser's going to still take heat for benching Gibbs. But, the first year that Champ was in the playoffs and he was, motivated and active and, he did a good job this year. And that's all we can ask for almost.
Yeah, exactly. All 3 were great nominees. Teji was just more of an unknown. We didn't know what to make of it. Not that he was most improved. Champ gets that. And I do remember bidding on Derrick Henry. I was the last bidder with Champ, and we kept going higher and higher, surprisingly, for this old running back. But, he stayed with it, and it was a good choice for him.
And he was I'm pretty sure he turned out to be, he was the running back number 2, finished 2 points out of Gibbs, but great year for him. So before we get to the big award that everyone wants to get and hear out, I keep putting this on the thing. It's like, it is like Michael Jordan. You can't give him the award every year. And it's, this guy, had $98 in cap room, finishes with a bye week, goes to the Pantheon Cup. He should be GM of the year for every year. Last year, I was the regular season champion. I only got 1 vote, which was from the commissioner. There's a couple guys that I don't think will ever vote for me, like Joe Moo, Champ, Cousin Pat now. But I voted for Neil. I thought Neil had a fantastic year. I'd be happy to see if he got GM of the year too, but maybe a couple too many rewards. But go ahead. I'm going to give you the GM of the year award.
Yeah, we had some worthy nominees. Teji was right there, had a good season. Neil did not win. Winner was Freddie. He did
Wow.
take the award this year.
Wow. Now that's just raised my head.
Does that surprise you? Well done. But
I thought, I always think that there's going to be like cousin Pat. I can guarantee you did not vote for me.
I mean, I got to tell you, playing fantasy football, anybody that does, to know the situation you started with, and even as long as you've played, and you said at the draft, this is the worst team I've ever had. I remember that quote at the draft night, and to do what you did, that's pretty cool.
That was not to get too cocky is, this is why I love this league and, did surprise myself. And that's basically, kind of set a trend for, some other teams here on just spend, spend, spend. The one thing is, I mean, if you can get through those first 7 games and you have a decent record, then you're pretty much in the free. You know what I mean? Then you can pretty much start looking at the bottom dwelling teams and whatnot. But there's a lot of luck that goes with it. It's like a couple of my guys, like, Love went out early, but Jaden Reed was fantastic the first few games and then went to shit. I got lucky with the McLaurin trade and just I think cousin Pat I beat, and he had Barkley on a bye week and St. Brown on a bye week in the same week. And I beat him by like a tenth of a point, I think. So there's just, and that was early in the season too, but you got to get lucky in this. It's just like anything.
Crazy. Very crazy. So next on the docket, we have the winter meetings on Monday, and then we'll have the announcements of. I will get out a league-wide email to what we're voting on. I should get that out this weekend, and we'll hear from that. And then the new season, the 25 season starts on Tuesday. Any sort of trades can commence, and also we have 2 new board members. We have Bowser and Teji. Bowser and Teji are the new board members this year. And thank you to James and Champ for the work they did the 2 years on the board. Thank you very much.
Thanks, James. Thanks, Champ. Has anyone offered you any trades yet?
I've put out trades.
Yeah.
I've put out some just flyers just to know where people are. Sure.
Jimmy's been knocking at my door, wanting players.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good. It's
Yeah,
good.
but
It's a good
that's the
league.
great
It's a
thing about
good active league. You don't want to be the opposite of that would not be very exciting.
No, and that's the great thing. This league never ends. So thanks a lot for having me, Commish. I am going to get to introduce my shows as 3-time GM of the year. Super exciting.
Oh, great.
All right,
Can't
guys.
wait.
Thanks so much. Have a great night.
All right. Later.